Dingos Dreams. So Dingos Dreams is my number 6. So this is a very, very, very easy game. It's similar to Bingo in a way, and it has a lot to do with it has a lot to do with the animals in the Australian outback, like for instance the dingo. And so when you play this game, only one player will play with the dingo, and then the other players, they can choose obviously what animal they want to play as. We have the dingo, we have Kanga, the kangaroo, we have Kidna, the echidna, and we have obviously the koala here. And because I also have the Kickstarter version of Dingos Dreams, you can actually play 5 players in this game, because now we have the honey ants as well. And because I have the Kickstarter, it even adds 4 more animals that each player can get as well. Of course, if you do this extra variant, you won't be able to play a 5-player game because there's only 4 of them. But we have the quoll, we have the numbat, we have the platypus, and we have the wallaby, which is basically a smaller species of kangaroo, sort of. There's wallabies, wallaroos, and kangaroos. So the wallaby is the smallest of the 3. But yeah, so we have another marsupial. Lots of marsupials in this game. Even that numbat and quoll, those are also marsupials as well. So that's really cool. So in this game, you have the walkabout phase, and you have the dreamtime phase, or dreamscape phase, and you're gonna have a bunch of tiles here, and you're gonna try to match. You're gonna have a bunch of tiles. Each player's gonna have a bunch of tiles all next to each other, similar to like this, but there's gonna be a whole lot more of them, obviously, but similar to that. And you're trying to match a particular pattern. So let's say this was the pattern. The animals would be actually the tiles would be on this side of the tile in the various different locations and colors, for instance, depending on which, doesn't matter which animal you're using, because you're all going to have the green ocean, you're all going to have the silver waterfall, etc., etc. But basically you're trying to match these locations and flip them over on the other side, which will be animals, and until this entire pattern here is matched up with, if you're the dingo, there has to be a dingo here in the grid, here, 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 and here, and the first person that can accomplish that is basically the winner. And there's obviously a little bit more going on. You're going to be putting tiles in from one angle of your choice, and then they're going to push one out. And so you're going to basically push them into like that, and then kick one out. And that's what you're going to be doing. So you're going to be doing that quite a bit in the game. And of course the grid will be bigger, so there'll be more tiles obviously in the movement, and you won't be playing with all 5 of these animals for that matter. But you get the point, that it's pretty easy to just simply match up the patterns here. This is definitely the easiest of the Red Raven games out there. And so obviously because it involves some of my favorite Australian animals, and the fact that it's an easy little game, this is why it made my number 6. So what is my number 5? Well, let's see. Megaland. Megaland is my number 5 in my top 10 favorite Red Raven games. Now this game is a very easy game. It's not super hard, and it's really a lot of fun. So let's talk about what I like about this game. So first of all, I definitely like these 2 guys, the cat folk, and I really like, obviously, like this frog folk or lizard folk. I'm not sure which he is, but I think he's more of a lizard than a frog in this particular game, even though he has that wrench in his hand, kind of like another game that I have. But still, I really love these 2 particular characters that you can choose from, and of course there's some humans as well. Yeah, humans. I wish they were all different folk, if you ask me. But still, two awesome characters to choose from. And then I really love the fact that in this game, you actually don't fight monsters. There's various monsters in this game, but you don't fight any of them. What you're doing, though, is you're trying to go down into this location to take on various levels. And some levels might be safe zones where you don't have to worry about any monsters, but you just don't know what you're going to find. You know that you might know there's a few areas where you'll be safe, but it's random. The levels are random, so you might get the red serpent on the first try, or maybe the red serpent will be on level 5, or level 6, or level 3, or level 10. Who knows? But that's the thing, you don't know what you're going to find down there, and if you stay around too long, the monsters will defeat you, and you will run out of hearts. And so in this game, even though you're not fighting monsters, the monsters can still hurt you, and if you run out of hearts, then you're basically kicked out of the levels, and everybody else can continue on. And that's another thing. You can decide to keep going or to leave whenever you want, while other players might decide to risk it and stay longer. Now, what are the benefits? Well, the benefits are you're going to get these goods cards here. You don't know what you're going to get, but each time you stick around, you're going to get one of these, and you're going to get to look at it. And there's various goods on these cards here. Carrots and ostrich eggs. Yes, that's an ostrich egg. And gears and crystals and some sort of stone cubes. You know, so there's various goods that you can get down there while you're down there. And there's even fish as well. And so you need to get a bunch of different goods because you're going to use these goods in order to build the various buildings. Because even though you're fighting monsters in these levels, and it's sort of like a video game almost, sort of, you're also going to be going back to your town and using the goods that you find. And if you lose all your hearts, you probably won't have any goods left, and then you won't be able to build any buildings. But building buildings will allow you to obtain money, and the person who has the most money at the end of the game wins, and the game end is triggered when somebody reaches 20 money. So you're going to want to build buildings, but to do that you're going to need goods, which means you're going to need to be able to fend off the monsters. I mean, survive each attack, each encounter with the monsters. So knowing when to leave and when to stay is really very random, because you could decide to leave early and everyone else stays, and then they get like 2 safe zones in a row. They get all the extra goods while you didn't get that many extra goods. So it's really all about your own personal risk of if you stay or not. But you're going to want to build a whole bunch of different buildings, and there's so many to choose from. You're not even going to have access to every single building in the game. So it's going to be a different game, at least for a few games. And we've got all sorts of interesting buildings, like the root market here, fish vendor, let's see here, a toll booth. What else do we got? Laboratory, a smithy. And some of these buildings are definitely like video game-esque, like the Hall of Elders, perhaps, you know. Or a lodge maybe even. But like some of these are not. Some of these are down-to-earth buildings, like a hospital, for instance. That's kind of interesting. Let's see here. What else do we got? We got a cafe. There's even a bowling alley in here, and there's also an arcade, and there's a sandwich stand in here. So here's the arcade. You know, so there's all sorts of different buildings in here that you can build to obtain money. And obviously the first person who, does that, gets all the money, will probably win the game. But there's also another interesting aspect. Now, you may not be able to fight the monsters, but if you build certain buildings, you can obtain jump tokens. So if you build a gym, you can obtain some jump tokens, and you can choose to jump a monster or jump a level where you won't receive any damage. But there's still some randomness to that, and there's still some risk, because you don't know what you're going to encounter when you use a jump token. And so let's say you decide to jump the level, and the level happens to be this, a safe zone. Well, you wasted your jump token. Sorry to say. Or, what if you run into this? You can't jump a monster that flies, and so there's two monsters in the game that fly, and you can't jump this. So now you still get the damage of losing one heart facing this eyeball winged monster here. So you can't jump that either. But you'll definitely be laughing for joy if you manage to jump the red serpent. That is the most dangerous monster that you can encounter. That's going to take out 3 of your hearts, and in the beginning of the game, you only have 4 hearts. So that means if you encounter this on the first level, there is no way you can survive another monster encounter at that point, unless you have a jump token to perhaps jump the monster. And so I really like the red serpent. That's definitely my most favorite, obviously, but I really like all of the monsters, although all of them are very cartoonish, almost video game-esque cartoonish to it for sure. Some of them are just more animal than monster, like the snake is obviously more animal than monster. The same thing with the bats. And so they're just really, really cool cards here. And there's even a treasure chest safe zone too. So that's what I just really love about Megaland. And so what is my number 4? Well, let's see what my number 4 is. Islebound. Islebound is my number 4. So I really like this game a lot. In this game, you're going to be on a ship. You actually get a ship that you can travel around to the board on. So there's 4 of them in here. You put them on little stands, just like in Megaland with your players. You'll put your little ships on these little stands, so that way you can move them around the board of Islebound to the various different isles. And you're going to visit these isles to obtain all sorts of interesting things like goods and certain types of cards. You can recruit pirates, for instance, or mercenaries, if you will. You can also breed sea serpents. So in this game, there's these really cool sea serpents, and this one is a special one with a particular card. But these are the basic sea serpents. And so you'll actually be using sea serpents to help you take over isles. Because in this game, you can attack the isles. So that way you don't have to pay a fee every time you visit the isle that you decide to visit a lot, right? So you can conquer different isles, and you can breed sea serpents to help you fight and help you conquer the isle. And you can also hire mercenaries as well, or pirates, to help you fight and take over an isle. So that's really cool. That's a cool aspect of Islebound that I really love, especially this particular sea serpent as well. But another thing I like is you're not really attacking other players in this game. You're attacking the isles, but the isles are just like the inhabitants of the isle that you're attacking. You're not attacking the actual players. Unless, of course, you decide to attack an isle that an opponent owns. Then you will actually be attacking an opponent. But that does not happen as often as you think, because it's a lot harder to take on an opponent than it is to actually take on just the regular inhabitants. So, obviously I really like the artwork a lot for this game. Another thing I really like about this game, besides obviously the sea serpents, is some of your crewmates. You're going to have a player board, okay? And you're going to be putting various crewmates on your player board, on your ship, that are going to help you out. They're going to be helping you out by going to all the different isles that you'll definitely be visiting. So here's some isles, for instance, you'll be visiting. And you set up the board with the various segments here, so it's not like one ginormous board. So it's easier to show you all the different isles in one fell swoop this way. So there's all sorts of different isles. They do a whole bunch of different things. You definitely want to get respect, like renown and stuff like that for sure. And this is also a game where you'll be building buildings. And so if you want to build a building, there's even an isle you'll have to build. You have to actually visit in order to build a building. And so if you decide you want to make it cheaper to go there, and visit there, you can't actually attack this particular isle called Stratic. You actually have to use your renown, the respect you've earned. You have to use that instead in order to take over the isle. And so some isles can only be attacked, while some can only be earned with the respect you've earned or gained visiting all these isles and helping out the inhabitants of these isles doing so as well. But you're going to be putting on various peoples. Obviously, there's lots of humans involved, but these are the different other races that you might have in the game. And so we have, like, this is a parrot humanoid, or parrot folk. And then we have, this fish folk guy here. And then we have Logos. You might remember them from a few other games, because after all, this is taking place in the world of Arzium, just like Rome. So this is another Arzium game, another in the world of Arzium. So we got the Logos, which live in caves or in the underground, great below. And then, so obviously they don't all live in the underground, because obviously you can get a Logos as a crewmate on your ship. And then we have this hog. He's a hog type of humanoid, or a pig humanoid. And then, obviously, one of my favorites, or the best, the lizard folk humanoid, and the frog folk humanoid. And so, obviously, there's humans you can get on your ship too, but obviously I'm going to try to go for the various different other types of humanoids in the game. And so you're going to be putting them on your ship, and then they're going to be going to the isles to help collect your goods and many other things, like training sea serpents and things like that. And then when you have a lot of money, you can start building some buildings, because not only do you have to visit the isle to build a particular building, but you also have to be able to afford it as well. And so you're trying to build a civilization, a kingdom, as well as trying to go around and visiting different isles and exploration, that kind of thing. And obviously, possibly doing some piracy type stuff too, as well as, through some of the missions and events and things, helping some of the isles out with various problems. So there's a lot I like about this game. A lot. There's a lot going on. It's sort of almost like a worker placement game, except it's more of a boat placement game, because you're just visiting an isle, placing your boat there, and then some of your crewmates might get exhausted after visiting the isle. And then you need to go and visit certain isles that have inns and hotels and things like that, so you can rest them up. Because once they're exhausted, then they go down into the below deck area, and they're exhausted, and so you're gonna need to get them to a hotel so they can sleep properly and get a good night's sleep before you can utilize them once again above deck. So that's really cool, and you can put your goods, the various wood and fish that you'll find in the game, and put them in your hold, and you can only have 10 of them, so you can only hold 10 in your hold. So if you get more, you have to throw some fish out. And there's a lot of different things you can do with the wood and the fish. You can even use some of that stuff to help you when you attack a isle as well. And so you'll be rolling dice, trying to get a high power number here. If you roll a 5 with Icor here, the red sea serpent here, you get an attack power of 4. And some of those isles, they have high numbers. For instance, you need an attack power of 9 to take over Green Isle, and you have to attack that one. You can't use your renown. You can't use your reputation in order to take over the isle. So that's something to note. And so that's my number 4. That is Islebound is my number 4. So, what is my number 3? Well, let's see.